And that's what today and this week is all about, is decisions. Decisions that you make for yourself, decisions you make for your family, decisions you make for your business, and decisions you make for your life. So my challenge for you is to make a decision. And at that conference, I decided to go full-time. I decided to go pro. And it was the evolution of my business. It was one of many decisions I would have to make over the course of my business, but a decision that led us here today to be able to be in front of you and to pass on what I've learned. Today, we're going to talk about visualizing where you want your business, but also your life to go. Second, tomorrow, we're going to map out how to get to that vision. And then third, we're going to talk about focus, which is where to focus your time. So no matter where you're trying to go, we want to be able to figure out what the next step looks like. This weekend is all about also community. Notice there's a lot of people in the room here. We have a bunch of pioneers, we have pacers, we have pilots, we have passengers, and I want you to also learn from each other. Yes, I'll be teaching you, but we also need to learn from each other as well, because none of us is as smart as all of us. Also, there's no judgment in this room. Like we know, on our coaching calls, we all have problems in our business. I have problems, you have problems, we all have problems, we have wins. You're not trying to impress anyone in the room. You're not trying to impress your neighbor. You're not trying to impress me. The only person I want you to impress this week is the future version of yourself. With that, I want to welcome everyone to Purple Circle Tulum 2026. All right. But what I realized was I was just the bottleneck of it. And what was really lacking was the organizational excellence. I didn't have a head coach who I could rely on. I had lead coaches, but not a head coach. So the move I had to make was, well, if I get the head coach, then they resolve the consistent results, which means then we don't have to think about which leads we don't take on, which also means that I'm removed away from the operations. So just being able to find that head coach out of my coaching branch solved 6 other problems. Every lead domino is going to be different for everyone. So if you're on level 1, the pioneer is going to be different than the pacer, the pilot, the passenger. So we're going to focus on that. But my goal here is for you to be able to find what that is. So for example, if you don't even have leads, sales is probably not the problem. If you have leads, but you don't have sales, sales is probably the problem. And if you're getting client refunds, well, it's probably not a lead or sales problem. It's probably a consistent results problem here. So we want to be able to find that out. I love that. Like we talked about that last week, obviously, where you could tell your viewers like, oh, we lost one client. What happened here? How do I prevent this? It's almost like your blood veins are like going through your tattoo. Possible. We had one Purple Circle member who did that, who was at our last retreat, who talked about going from pioneer to passenger in a year, but he also had a mom who had stage 4 cancer and needed to make sure the business ran on its own, right? Eternal fire. So it's possible, but let's actually set our sights out right here. I want you to use your pillar as the lens to see how can you apply what it is that you're trying to build. And everything else, I'm going to give you permission to park it and just do it for later. So for example, if Curtis is talking about his story, think about in your pillar is your offer. Think about what is it that Curtis is doing with his offer. When Bob and Judith are talking, if your one thing is organizational excellence, and even if they're talking about their consistent results, think about how are they creating consistent results through their organization. Well, you can still get to pilot with that. It just means that if you're a pacer, it means that there's probably more than one area of your business that you're currently managing, whether that's account management, sales, operations, whatever it is. So you can still be a pilot. Some people are literally a pilot and all they do is work on LinkedIn and they enjoy it though, or speaking. And that's their one thing is that they are the face of the brand, but everything else happens operationally. So if you're a pacer, it means that there's usually other departments that currently you're managing that's not just marketing. And then my level 3 fire happened in the operations. So level 1, it was about sales. Level 2 was about the leads. Level 3 was about the operations. When someone I trusted stole from me. So I realized that one of the managers in the business was embezzling our money. At level 1, every sale depended on me. At level 2, when the leads disappeared and COVID happened, I was panicking, like, how am I going to pay my team? At level 3, it was operations when someone stole from me. At level 4, it was all the people who could leave me, and then I'm like, I don't have the knowledge to run back this. It's like crazy times. So the challenges don't stop. I just want you to know that every level, like when you're encountering today, this is why we start the morning off by wins. I want you to celebrate all the wins that you've had since whenever we got in contact with, because I want you to know that every time there's going to be a new fire, but it's up to you to be able to get through it, and you don't have to get through it alone. Similar to when my grandma had to go through the fire, is you can choose to close the door, or you can decide to clean up and continue on tomorrow.
An opportunity came up for me to do kind of what I love for a big finance company, in charge of training all of their young investors, in charge of the whole program for the whole company. 7 figures. You just need to believe in it as much as I do. Now the truth is she doesn't need to. I just need to find a way to not care. When I talk about the last thing you want to focus on is your current reality. The only reality you want to focus on is the one you want. Imagine it every second of the day. I left a word out. I love you, F-bomb. I love what you do. You're exactly the right person. Now you need to change your entire business model this afternoon. It's not, when you have an issue, when you have a problem, when you have a challenge or an opportunity as an entrepreneur, 95% of them, 99% of them say, how do I get this done? Never stop listening. The humility, I was not known, I was very confident, still am, very successful, but becoming an entrepreneur is like, I don't know a thing, teach me. And that is not going to stop. So having my wife at least neutral allows me to fly. Having other people teach me allows me to go to the stratosphere. So that's where I am. Thank you, Davis. Thank all of you, and let's rise together.
Your brand is the reason that someone chooses you over any other provider in your space. It's what makes your marketing work, it's what makes your referral work, it's what makes your offer feel like a no-brainer. At level 1, your brand might just be you and you talking about yourself. And so today, this is what we're going to talk about. Yesterday was all about visualizing where you want to take your business and your life. Today is about mapping the path to get there. You're at A, you want to get to B, what's the map to get there? And then tomorrow, we're going to talk about how to focus on what is the area that you need to move on. Regardless of whether you're a pioneer, a pacer, a pilot, or a passenger, there's 3 things that will get you to the next level faster. And these are the 3 things that I see across all the businesses that I coach, all the businesses I own, and just businesses I have conversations with. And if you just nail these 3 things, your path is going to be a lot smoother. The way I would describe this brand is innovation, simplicity, premium, sleek. What's that? Wow, that was fast. Okay, I had more. All right, we're 3 in. Apple.
One of the things in going from level 2 to level 3 is also your service might actually change, and having to be okay with that, because one of the best pieces of advice that I got early in the Salesforce agency was I was searching for projects that excited me, and I was probably top 10 in the world with knowledge of a specific product, and they're like, you're not going to be able to hire someone for that.
That's the biggest mistake, is now you're the architect, you film the culture, you're the thought leader if you want to choose to be, but you don't need to be in the nitty-gritty of the details. You can call people out on your culture, you can keep them accountable, why isn't this being met? But if you're going there solving every single problem, then the business just runs through you. It doesn't run for you, it runs through you.
To clients, and then, I usually go with the theory of undercommit, over deliver, but then I know it doesn't happen all the time with everyone, so that's one, overcommitting. Second is not communicating problems early enough, and then until shit hits the roof, and then suddenly they're all discovering where the problems are. And third is it's slightly different because as a business owner, of course, I have much more skin in the game, so the level of empathy that I have is much higher as compared to somebody else who I've just hired as a contractor. And then the level of empathy for them is still kind of limited because it doesn't matter whether they go above and beyond, they're still gonna get paid the same amount, with some spot bonuses here and there. So those are the 3 things which, I found it's kind of annoying.
We have an end of day and they will just break up what is your OBT? What's the main big thing? What's your next big thing? What did you get done today that's routine, not routine? And then any problems or issues that come up on it.
I love things organized, more so my personal life. Greg my desktop is clean, but he's actually way better at organizing digital files than I am, which is interesting. And so, but the one pet peeve I have is finding things with my team in multiple places, the same document. I'm like, why do we have 2 of the same thing? And then it can be scattered. So I'm actually wondering, and it's interesting you point that out, is what am I doing? And I think that I need to look into that because I think it's very subtle. And I can't identify where that is, but maybe there is something that I'm doing that it just frustrates the hell out of me. I was like, why do we have this in Google Drive and this folder? It doesn't make sense.
But the biggest 2 productivity, if you want to understand them, is 1, I give them what's the clear focus, what does success look like, and that maps it. It's not how much you do, it's how well did you perform the thing that we need to get done. And then the second is we have an open culture about, how do we improve it? As part of our company value is how do we continue to raise the bar on it? And so that's how we do that.
The reason I wrote my first book is not why you might think it is. It's because I went to college partially on a research scholarship, and publishing a book was a loophole to let me study abroad, and I went to Copenhagen. I started with more of a marketing background. but I ended up in product by the time I graduated. But I always thought marketing was like one of my superpowers, and it was cool to get to work at Facebook and have like billions of users on day one, but I was scared that I would lose like my superpower of marketing by just being given the users, because I knew I'd ultimately want to do something entrepreneurial. The first one was predictions. Like I feel like a lot of people post on LinkedIn with opinions and they're like, I think this, or I like believe that this company should do this. I found by framing predictions as literally using the words I predict as the first two words, it creates like a huge increase in how much people engage with the content, because people have this inherent bias of negativity where they're like, I want this person to be wrong, let's read it, let's shit on it. Or it's like, oh, I'm curious, like I want to see what the future is. Either way, you're getting engagement. So yeah, I highly recommend before anybody writes a book to think, what is the keyword that you expect people to be searching, and to work backwards from that. I think a lot of people spend a lot of time being like, oh, this is like a clever punny title. I did that myself with Swipe to Unlock. I'm like, it has a nice ring to it, but like I had to build that brand from the ground up. Like if you can just ride the coattails of something people are searching organically, like why not make your life so much easier?
And now Michael can make money in 3 ways. He can monetize it in the front. So when people are wanting the license, they pay him, they get certified, they get the certificate, and they can say that they're just like this coach. The second thing is that if they want to keep renewing it with his methodology, they have to pay him an annual fee to renew it. And the third is that when he's oversubscribed with clients, he can just send it to someone else and say, hey, this is someone who's certified, I can't do it, but here's someone who's certified in the Curtis Butler method here, and then you can get a percentage from that as well. Are you gonna build a licensing program around it where other people can use that IP? Or do you actually ultimately want to use that as part of the business and sell the entire business, right? Just think about what that is. It could be a book that's inside of you, it could be a talk, a TED Talk that's inside of you, it could be a keynote, whatever it may be. So I want you to write that down for me.
The client journeys, though they may be completely different, they may look different on the surface, but behind the scenes, like underlying data actually is able to create these patterns.
Yep.
And can identify which client can essentially like in the future what we are hoping is like something like Minority Report, where essentially as soon as you onboard a client, like the coach will have an idea on this date, this client is most likely to get placed at this kind of company, at this kind of salary, and all of that.
That's a really good one. So anyways, who didn't catch it, is AI wouldn't be able to do that naturally right now, because it's only because you have proprietary data, which is your IP. So you guys see the definition I mentioned earlier is that you have all this data. That's what makes you unique. That's why if you're already an existing coach, you're way ahead of anyone who's going to be a coach, because they don't have that data moat. So that's a really good one, which is, I love the Minority Report type of deal. You have to see if that's trademarked already, but I like that idea, like which clients are most likely to succeed and which ones are likely to drop off based on everything that you've seen across the board. It's a really good one. Awesome.
I think for me, it's a lot, like just all the coaching steps, what I do with the resume, cover letter, more like interview prep, because I record all my calls and I have a backlog of transcripts I need to update to create like an interview playbook. So right now I'm just like, I need to craft it and make it like a more simple process. So I think for me, I'm just the beginning, so I have to do all of these things for this.
Right, so you're in the document phase. Once you document it, you can teach it to someone else, and then from there, you can figure out what to do with it, whether it's publish or license it. There's a lot you can do there. It's good stuff. When I'm trying to understand something, I always think, how can I explain this in a very simple way? So my bar is that, can I explain this to a 5th grader? If I cannot explain this to a 5th grader, it's way too complicated, and oftentimes 5th graders need a simple way to look at the world. And so I always think, how do I dumb this down? Because to me, is that if you cannot explain something very simply, it means you don't understand it fully yourself yet. Yeah, so when I first created the Focus Finder, again, Focus Finder is just the diagnostic tool you guys all have in Purple Circle where you see where you're at. The simplest one I had was literally a triangle. There's a triangle that had 3 sides: leads, sales, capacity. And I'm like, okay, what's your OBT this week? Great, can you handle double the leads? Yes. Can you handle double the sales? No. All right, sales is your capacity, right?
Like for example, even like having your own AI trained on your IP, can people just keep asking questions, copy paste, and like eventually they can recreate it like this?
Yeah, people would do that anyways. Like Parv talked about, like he wrote all these books, and it doesn't stop people from pirating it. It's going to be there. It's just more of like a game of whack-a-mole in which you want to be able to play it. And so, for example, There are people who copy the courses, copy the things as well, and you can get like a DMCA takedown and so forth. You can do that, but it becomes a game of whack-a-mole. So, but in terms of your question, is your question more of what happens if your clients copy it, or what happens if your team members copy it?
Both options.
Sure. Sure. For team members, obviously when they onboard, you should have them sign a contract that, hey, this is our IP, and so you have a legal document now that you can go. Earlier what we talked about, you have to have that protection, right? So you have that. Whether or not you enforce it, that's up to you, right? You're legally protected. It's just more, is it worth it for you to go down? When it comes to clients, multiple ways that you can do it. You have them sign the same thing, but you need to know who leaked it, right? So there are certain ways that you can do it. Like one of the best ones I've seen is it's literally watermarked on the sides. If they screenshot, copy, paste everything, it will screenshot. So certain LMSs will do that, where it's kind of like, this is Dragos' version. So if it goes online and gets leaked on torrent or something, people can literally say what your email is when you log on. So that's another way that you can do it as well. Depends on how much of the price you want to do. I want to make sure that knowledge gets passed on. So to me, the most valuable thing you can do is to learn from other people who've made the same mistakes. So Dragos asked a great question, what mistakes I've made on it is exactly those.
And what made it great? Like, what are the characteristics? If you could shout that out to us. What's in a good relationship? Honest communication, great. What else?
Shared values.
Shared values, good. Trust. Shared goals. Loyalty.
Set aside egos. Well, we'll work on that one. A lot of people need to get one before they can set it aside. No, seriously. We want to transcend the ego. But you do need to know you're full of shit. See, when we know we're full of shit, then you'll be able to understand this conversation better later on.
Well, can we just have a show of hands? Who knows they're full of shit? I do. Oh, this is a pretty enlightened group.
Okay, so
great. We'll define shit as we go along. So
okay,
great.
What are the characteristics of the worst relationships at home and at work? Avoidance, trying to change each other.
Anything else?
Really loud noise next door. Yeah?
Here.
Well, working out your unconscious problems on each other. Maybe both sides of that one.
Good. Purpose of relations, again, is not to feel better. It's to become better. To use our relationships as this way to become who we can become, to challenge one another, to awaken, to develop, to support, to nurture each other, to grow, transform, realize our potential. In every relationship you're in, this is what we really want you to get. Every relationship you're in is designed to bring up everything you have not resolved yet.
Relationships serve both as a womb and a crucible. The crucible to burn away our impurities, and a womb to nurture our potentialities. In companies, there are different ways that people find to have these rapid fire interactions. This is a very deep skill about being present in the here and now. You can go do Vipassana retreats all day long and come back, but will you be able to touch and be touched in the here and now, rapid fire, in a way that causes each of you to be nourished and to grow and to be more and more effective and more conscious.
Star for you. So we wish that all of you love fully,
Laugh loudly,
risk boldly,
feel deeply,
express fearlessly,
play hard,
fight fiercely,
work joyously,
commit totally,
live consciously,
and lead courageously.
take action and live it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
Dave.
all.
And so I always like to solve about what problem am I trying to solve for myself. So if you think about the one big thing, and we talked about the purple circle model, is if consistent leads is your issue, work on that. If sales is your issue, work on that. I'm going to give you some demos. If results are your issues, work on that. Because I find that if you can solve something that you're doing, you're going to be a lot more invested in solving it versus something that's nice. When it comes to AI, what to ignore, where to start, and what you don't hear about is how to actually apply all this versus just being surrounded by all the noise, all the Reddit posts, and all the Hacker News articles. So I'm going to give you 3 mental models for how to think about AI. The goal of this is no matter where you are on the AI spectrum, you're going to be able to apply this to your life. Model number 1 is AI multiplies time. So most people, they think of AI as a time saver. Oh, this used to take me half an hour, now it takes me 2 minutes. Yes, but there's only so much subtraction that you can do. Instead, I want you to think about AI as a time multiplier. So imagine, for example, you are trying to follow up with sales leads. Normally, you would only take the time, like, all right, I only have a couple minutes. I'm just gonna go ahead and quickly draft up an answer, an email, follow up. But imagine if you had an AI tool that could just research what that lead's been up to, what was your last communication, draft up the message, send up, set up a cadence for you, and make sure that it feels so personal to your voice that you don't have to worry about it. In fact, it can even send the message for you. How amazing would that be? Yeah? So that is a time multiplier. It's taking time that you don't have right now and giving it to you. So instead of taking back tasks, redundancies, it's actually multiplying time.
The high-performing coaching systems are actually enabling the high-quality execution. There is absolutely no micromanagement, no guesswork. We are purely focusing on how to get the best results. And some of these include like the job board, networking agents. We've built like Chrome extension. We've built like a coach GPT, where like it's almost like having your second brain inside the tool, which ensures that what you teach in your program to your clients is exactly what the product is kind of, simulating in the system.
Next one's something called cash balance plans. So for traditional retirement accounts, you're limited to contributing across all of them $72,000. Cash balance plans are basically single person pension plans, and pensions are defined benefit plans. So what the IRS caps isn't what you can contribute, it's the ultimate benefit you can get in retirement. So this is super helpful for people who are a little later on, like in their 50s or so, and don't have enough in retirement. Because if you're going to guarantee this $50,000 a year pension that you're going to get, and you've got 5 to 10 years to do it, you have to guarantee that that's going to be done. That allows you to supercharge these contributions to where we've seen people be able to contribute 100 to 300 grand on top of their 401k contributions.
Not so helpful for younger people because you've got more runway. So they're like, just actuarially, when they do the calculations, you've got a lot, the amount you can contribute is lower. But especially for clients we have who are a little bit older and trying to catch up, it's absolutely massive. Yeah.
We'll be talking about that one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I was just,
We will.
Yeah.
no, you're
Because I'm almost 30, so.
I'm saying you're buying into an investment that has this land.
Okay, so
and
it's not you're doing it.
Yeah, you're buying into an LLC.
Okay, gotcha.
You're buying 5% into an LLC that plans on doing this.
Got it.
But the crazy thing on these is that usually they're whatever dollar you put in at the top tax bracket, you're going to save between $1.50 to $1.80. So
Wow.
it's an immediate, not 2-to-1 benefit, but it is massive to where what you're putting in there, you are getting way more than that. But it only works at the top tax bracket. If you're at 22% tax bracket, the math just doesn't work. So, but if you're here, I mean, yeah.
So how much can you like put into that?
I haven't had anyone get audited yet. Mostly they're going to audit. You want to make sure that the conservation easement company is legit and has a good war chest too, because they're going to get audited for sure. And so, but I haven't seen them get audited at an individual level. You have to, it's a reportable transaction, so you have to like attach special paperwork with your return if you do one of these. But the main thing is just that the company that's doing it has really good analysis for what the lost economic value is.
Which is why you're paying into it.
Yes. The Caribbean wouldn't do it. I mean, there could be other U.S. territories that I'm not aware of, but the U.S., their whole thing is that they are the most aggressive on taxing worldwide income of any country I know. So the only reason this exists is because Puerto Rico is a territory. So I don't think the Caribbean.
Other like Costa Rica, Nicaragua, like on that direction.
Yeah, it was like something like St. John or.
People set those up for different. I'm sure there's international income tax shifting things you can do. A lot of them are either fraud or are close to fraud.
And he makes hundreds of millions.
But that's the thing. If you make enough, you can definitely set it up, and you have enough going on that you can justify that income tax shifting. Most of my clients are doing very well, but I think I looked up a stat like only like 0.0027% households are making over $1 million a year. So for the vast majority of people, it just the administrative costs. I've got a client who gave up his U.S. citizenship because he didn't want to pay, that he's had a bunch of stuff coming, he didn't want to pay tax on it. And I think he was setting up like a Swiss bank account, it was going to be like $50K in fees for whatever the trusts and stuff he was setting out. So for most people it just doesn't make sense, but yeah, at that scale, I'm sure. So yeah, just the last thing or anything else is, so if for all this you're like, yeah, this is cool, nice strategies, like thanks a lot, but I've got too much crap going on, I don't like this, it's boring, like any of the reasons that everyone does, that I want you to look at like what the terminal cost is. So we put it into where if you, at 30 years, but assuming an 8 to 10% rate of return, if you could save 20 grand a year, after 30 years, that's going to be between 2.3 million and 3.3 million. If you're saving 50 grand a year, that's going to be between 5.7 to 8.2 million. If you're saving 100 grand a year, that's going to be between 11.3 million to 16.4 million dollars. So while it might not seem like a huge cost at the time, and the numbers can be impressive on the front end, but again, just the hatred of taxes is something we have to work through. If you look at every single year I'm saving 20,000, 20,000, 50,000, 50,000, 50,000, those really do have a pretty significant either economic benefit or economic cost. And also, like, if for talking about hiring advisors like Curtis and Davis did, if all of a sudden you got an extra 50K that you didn't have otherwise, what could you do? Use that in your business to propel things forward. Those are the specific things I had.
All right. Thank you, Micah.
religious way, you know, cenote, it means like the entrance to the infraworld, or like the door to the other dimension. It's something pretty complex. But if you look in the dictionary now, what is the meaning of cenote? It's just like a collapse that happened in the surface of the limestone. Okay, and that's what is happening with the peninsula of Yucatan. All around the peninsula of Yucatan, it's collapsing, you know, and that's why National Geographic it called this area the Mexican Swiss cheese.